Dr. Sahel, you can turn your microphone on and you can start.
It's on, isn't it? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Can I start?
Yes, you can.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وكل من تبع هداه إلى يوم الدين. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this little talk, which I hope going to be interested to all of you. And as Dr. Al-Alwan said, my title is Impact of COVID-19 on TB patients and impact of TB patient on COVID-19, TB on COVID-19 patient, cytokines storms, and their use as a marker to evaluate the prognosis of the patients. And I guess one of the social impact, before I start my talk, impact on TB and vice versa, this is what's happening right now is an impact. I cannot meet you in person, and I am delivering my talk via screens, which I don't like. I always like to attend the seminars in person and talk to people directly and interact with them directly. But what we can do, this is what is available to us right now, and we have to live with it. Going back to the impact of COVID-19 on TB patients, let me start as introduction with this slide. This slide is, I like it so much. Why? Because it came from WHO report released last year, 2019, talking about deliberately emerging infectious diseases. And they said in that report, if we are not prepared, like 80 million people will die from infectious diseases. And as you can see, they categorized the infectious diseases to newly emerging. And of course, the infamous one now we have in hand is the coronavirus, and then re-emerging. And again, the infamous one here, and I cannot go beyond TB, MDR TB or XDR TB or TB in general. It's re-emerging. And what they mean by deliberately emerging is the when somebody use biological weapons to kill people on purpose. At that time, the purpose of the report is to alert people to become prepared to face these challenges. At this moment, I am using this slide for different purposes because we are already alerted. And of course, COVID-19 took a toll on everybody of us. And now what I want to say is that because of COVID-19, we might hit the target of 80 million deaths. Not, this is, please pay attention to it. Not because of COVID-19 only, just because we are focusing too much on COVID-19 and maybe in some places ignoring other diseases, particularly TB. And why TB? Because it's my passion. I love it so much. Of course, I love it in different way, not the way somebody might think. I love it in terms of I wanted to find something, fight it. So I am using it as a model to explain the re-emerging and why we might hit the target here, 80 million. We might hit the target here, 80 million deaths, just because we are focusing too much on COVID-19 and ignoring too much, again, other diseases. These slides, if I want to count the diseases here, the infectious diseases here, I will take the 45 minutes without going beyond it, just to keep counting all these sort of infectious diseases. But I'm not going to count. I just hear the message from this slide that WHO alerted us on we have to be prepared. And now we are prepared for infectious diseases, but unfortunately prepared on one side and not prepared on the other side, focusing too much on one disease and ignoring other diseases. So to talk about impact of COVID-19 on TB patients and impact of TB on COVID-19 patients, I divided the type of impacts to two types. The first one is direct impact of COVID-19 on TB patient. Again, I'm using TB as a model, but nonetheless, this direct impact can affect any other infectious diseases. You name it: malaria, MERS, COVID, HIV, E. coli, Staph aureus, all sort of infectious diseases. The direct impact can be really bad to them if we don't sit back and think again when it comes to tackling the infectious diseases altogether. So we have direct impact, and of course, what is direct impact leads to? To lead to increase in number of cases. And again, I will show you evidence that at least people are predicting that cases of TB will increase in a dramatic way. And of course, the increase of cases will lead to poor management due to that, again, focusing on one disease and ignoring the other. And of course, unfortunately, we will end up in death of a lot of people from TB. When it comes to indirect impact, we cannot talk about indirect impact without talking about we cannot talk about direct impact without talking about cytokines storm. And I will explain what is cytokine storm. But in a simple word, cytokine storm is the culprit in causing death among COVID-19 patients. This is at least what I have seen in a lot of literature nowadays, talking about linking mortality rates with cytokine storm. And of course, if cytokine storm is not tackled, it will lead to difficulty in the treatment of the patients, and again, it will end up in death. So why the infectious diseases are threatening, including TB, of course, are threatening us to re-emerge and to take the upper hand? Several reasons. I am listing some of them, but not limited to these reasons. The first reason is that because massive resources have been allocated globally on testing, tracing, isolation, quarantine, and treatment of COVID-19. And this is true even happening here in Saudi Arabia. For instance, I can say my lab, which is designated to TB lab, has been converted to diagnostic place for COVID-19, and I was literally ejected. All my equipments were removed, all my staff were removed outside, and people who work on COVID-19 took over. And this is good in a way to tackle COVID-19, but it's not good in another way when we ignore infectious diseases and particularly TB. The other reason, entire hospitals and health clinics have been reprioritized to respond to COVID-19. And of course, even blind people can see this, what is happening here when it comes to reprioritizing hospitals, clinics, and others to tackle COVID-19. Volunteers, staff who have been providing health education and primary health care services have been redirected towards COVID-19 patients' care. We ended up with less also people, less people going to clinics to receive care for whether for TB or other infectious diseases, or even general diseases like cancer or whatever. Why they are not going to the clinic here? Because they are fearing to catch COVID-19. And this is again bad, impacting the other diseases. Physical distancing, which we are practicing on daily basis, affected or impacted or disrupted the vaccinations program around the globe. As a consequence of these reasons, directing, prioritizing, social distancing, less people going to the clinics, what we are ended up with is that immunizations have been impacted on at least 68 countries. And this is a statement I took it from WHO report just released in 2020, just I think this week or last week. And as a result, 80 million people are impacted, are not receiving their vaccines, mainly children. And you can feel it, you can see it. If children are not vaccinated, what we are going to end up? Polio, for instance. And I know in some countries, mass polio vaccinations have been deferred several times. And if you don't give polio vaccine, you expect that polio will re-emerge and impact children in a severe way. And this is again, this is a slide I like, and I took from, as I said, the report released by WHO last week, showing how much COVID-19 impacted detection and diagnosis of TB. And they presented India, Philippines, Indonesia, South Africa, these four countries as a model to show you the impact. And you can see here, and why they are presenting these four countries, because the total cases of TB in these countries form 44% of the total cases of TB. And almost 50% of the total cases around the globe are happening in these four countries, unfortunately. And you can see it yourself here, the sharp drop in detections of TB cases. Why? Because people ignored TB and focused on COVID-19. And this is bad. This is extremely bad scenario to happen. Why TB are not detected? Why TB is not treated? And I can add to this one, you know, when such things happening in such countries, and we know they are suffering, for instance, here South Africa, suffering from a lot of XMDR and MDR, XMDR, extensively drug resistant TB, and multi-drug resistant TB. And we are living in a small village, all the strains in this country, in these countries, might migrate, and they are migrating to other countries. And in other words, spreading difficult to treat cases of TB, and they should take an action, and the whole world should take an action. Again, this is another slide showing you from the same report, 2020 report, as you can see here, showing you the impact of undetected cases as long as we go, as this undetection take longer time. Here the duration in months, and here you can see the expected number of deaths will happen. And this is extremely bad things to happen, because the more the cases go undetected, and the longer the time goes with it, the higher number of deaths is expected. And they are expecting over the coming 5 years, like 1.3 million will die from TB. In addition to the already we have in hand 1.4 million. This is 1.4 million from the report last year, 2019. 1.4 million people died from TB. Add to it 1.3, then it will go back to like 3 million deaths per year. And this takes us back to, you know, like, I don't want to say dark stones, dark ages, but this is exactly what it means. When you fight for the last 50 years to bring the death of TB to below 2 million people a year, and then because of too much attention is paid to COVID-19, and TB is ignored, the death rate will accelerate and will go shoot up. On top of that, a lot of cases will happen. A lot of people will catch TB. So the message from this slide that the longer we go without detecting cases, the higher the death number will be. And of course, we cannot ignore the economic impact factor as we talk about gross domestic product per capita and undernutrition. These two factors, as a result of the unemployment or no income, will lead to, of course, undernutrition. This is the recipe, the excellent recipe for TB, to catch TB. If you are not eating healthy food, that means your immune system will be weak, and then you will be a prey for all sorts of infectious diseases, including TB. and this is bad. Because why it's bad? Because we think and we believe that 1/3 of the total population are infected with dormant TB, and if some people from those who have dormant TB go under nutrient, definitely we give the chance to TB for the TB to flare. And of course, this will lead to a catastrophic cost on the household as a result of sickness of the supporter family, member family, maybe father, maybe brother, maybe mother, maybe they die. And this is a bad scenario. We don't want to think about it, but it's unfortunately a reality if we don't tackle all infectious diseases together. Again, this is to confirm the data released from WHO. This is Imperial College made an estimation, and they said if we don't tackle infectious diseases in parallel, like taking care of TB, taking care of HIV, taking care of malaria, HIV, taking care of malaria, and just focusing on COVID-19, additional 6.3 million will catch the disease. Again, this is on top of the 10 millions already we have in hand every year. They become sick with the TB. And if you add 10 million plus 6.3, it will go back to like 16, 17 million cases every year. And another 1.4 million will die, which is, this number is very similar to what WHO estimated in the previous slide I showed you. So again, we'll go back to dark ages, and TB will kill more people, up to 3 million people every year, and maybe 16, 17 million people will become sick. And there are consequences, serious consequences to get people sick and get them out of the job, because TB need, especially if it is pulmonary TB, need isolation, need treatment. Sometimes if they are drug resistant, they need the treatment up to 2 years. Again, this was from Imperial College. Again, another study from Lancet of Infectious Disease. This is journal, respected journal. They are saying that HIV, malaria, and TB will increase by 10, 20, 36 respectively over the next 5 years if we are not tackling TB and other infectious diseases as we go along and tackling COVID-19. So conclusion, here you may agree or you may disagree with me. This is my own conclusion, my own thinking. Maybe you said you are Sahel, you are wrong. What I guess that the 80 million people WHO report talked about and said we will hit 80 million deaths if we don't get ourselves prepared to tackle infectious diseases. I would say we might hit this 80 million people, but not only because already we have more than 1 million people died from COVID-19, and the number is increasing day after day. But I think we will not die from one single disease. We will die from combined maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, of infectious diseases, especially if they form alliance with each other. And we know the infamous alliance is, and I present it here as example, is that when HIV allied with TB, we noticed a dramatic increase in death, because among each 3 individuals infected with HIV, 1 person died from TB. Why? Because HIV make the immune system busy, and the TB takes the opportunity and the flare and kills the people. So this is infamous scenario of alliance, and I'm going to speculate on another alliance in the coming few slides. So the conclusion before I move to my second part of the talk from this slide is that we might hit the 80 million deaths, but not only because of COVID-19 only, but because COVID-19 plus alliance, other infectious diseases, particularly if they ally or they form alliance with each other. And here is my second part of the talk. I am talking now about indirect impact, and I told you at the first or second slide that we cannot talk about impact indirect impact without talking about cytokine storm. So what is cytokine storm? Cytokine storm literally means that when your immune system overreact to tackle an infection or any other diseases, sometimes the immune system go crazy and react against itself. And rheumatoid, for example, is one example of craziness of the immune system. But here we are talking about excessive response, uncontrolled response, releasing of too much cytokines, activations of cells, and they send them to the site of the infection unnecessarily, without needing that much of excessive response. And what will happen when the immune system bombard? Let us take the lung as example. When your immune system bombard your lungs with too much cells, too much cytokines, guess what happened? There will be edema because too much cells in there, and this place will be heated, and the heat with edema will end up with multi-system organ failures and death. And this is exactly what people talking about when it comes to the mortality, high mortality rate with COVID-19, and they said because of the cytokine storm. So what is cytokine storm? Cytokine storm, this nice picture I took also from one reference. It shows you literally the storm, but not the dust storm, but cytokines storm. This is exactly what is happening in your body. Too much things migrate here to the organ, infected organ, and cause a lot of damage, unfortunately, and failure of the organs, and end up in death of the individual who are suffering from cytokine storm. So cytokine storm is excessive reaction of the immune system. Guess what? We need the reaction. We need the response by innate immune system, but we don't want it to go beyond the control. We need a balance. We need absolutely critical balance. I treat, but I don't harm. This is exactly what we need by the immune system. But does the immune system knows this? I suspect, and if it doesn't know, what caused the immune system go crazy and cause damage instead of benefiting the individuals. Again, people talk about two types of cytokine storm. Sorry, here of cytokine storm. I always make mistake here. I don't know why, but it happened. We have two types of storm. Without going too much into the details of type of storm, but I will just read out here. The first type is hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis, or HLH, characterized by severe hyperinflammation, uncontrolled proliferation, activated lymphocytes and macrophages. And by the end of the day, without going too much into the detail of these things, it will end up in multi-system organ failure and death. And again, the second type is macrophage activation syndrome, characterized by pancytopenia, liver insufficiency, coagulopathy, neurological symptoms, and again, without too much going into the detail of these ones, it ends up in multi-system organ failure and death. And here is people, just a paper released 2 days or 3 days ago, and I have here to thank Dr. Gahtani, because he's the one who sent me this paper talking about novel cytokine storm. It's amazing. This COVID-19 doing something I cannot understand, and I don't think anybody is understanding what is happening when COVID-19 infects individuals. Novel cytokine storm, not this, but novel cytokine storm. What a characteristic of novel cytokine storm? It's a kind of, I didn't want to bring kind of mixed things, like talking about people liver involvement, heart involvement, cytokines, of course, involvement. But when they talk about liver involvement, they showed enzymes shooting up, cardiac enzyme shooting up, too much organs involved in novel cytokines. And I think it is still under investigation and under further study. But people are started started talking about novel cytokines storm, and we have to pay a lot of attention to this kind of things, which means really COVID-19, even though it is bad and taking a lot of lives, dear lives to us. I personally suffered from catastrophic effect on us. I lost 4 or 5 members of my family due to COVID-19, but nonetheless, it's teaching us a lot. It's opening the window wide for too much research to be done around what is happening when COVID-19 enter our bodies, enter our lungs, our nose, and goes to other organs. If it goes, what is happening here? We need to study, and we need to study hard. When it comes to cytokines association, here to narrow the window and go specifically to cytokines involved in each type of the disease. For instance, here I'm talking about cytokines associated with COVID-19. Of course, we divide them to pro-inflammatory, which cause the cytokines storm, and anti-inflammatory, which it's supposed to inhibit or stops the what is happening here. It stops the cytokine storm from or stop the immune system from causing too much damage and overreacting. And the main cytokines here we found, or the people found to be involved in cytokine storm is TNF, tumor necrosis factor, interleukin 1 beta, interleukin 8, monocyte chemoattractant protein, and interleukin 6. However, when it comes to anti-inflammatory, as I said, this cytokines supposed to say stop to the immune system, don't react, don't overreact. We have interleukin 10. That's what literature talk about. But is this what is happening when the cytokine storm take place? I suspect not only this, but too much things are involving when cytokine storm. That's why it's going to be difficult to it is difficult to treat cytokine storm, and I'm going to throw in the coming few slides lots of dilemma to show you how difficult to tackle cytokine storms when individuals are suffering from COVID-19 or from COVID or from TB. So on the other hand, we have cytokines associated with TB, again, pro-inflammatory, interleukin 12, interleukin 6, tumor necrotic alpha, interferon gamma, interferon beta. And I can tell you the culprits which eats the lung when it is, this is because I love TB and I know more about TB than COVID-19. I can tell you the culprits which eats the lung when cytokine storm happening during the infection of TB, TNF alpha. TNF alpha, you can see it in the X-ray. It makes holes in the lung, and this is what causes failure of the lung. Too much holes, and it eats it up. And I think rheumatologist knows this because it's the culprit when it comes to cartilage eating during the rheumatoid episodes. We do have also anti-inflammatory, which is interleukin 27 and interleukin 35. Big but, please, we have cytokines involved with COVID-19. We have cytokines involved with TB. How about cytokines associated with both? Suppose you are a physician, you are sitting in your clinic, or you are called to the intensive care and said, oh, we got a patient who are infected with TB and COVID-19. What cytokines involved in both diseases? Do we have novel, like cytokine storm, or novel cytokines involved in when in a such scenario when a person is infected with TB plus COVID-19? This is a question need to be addressed and need to be answered. As we coming slowly to see cases around the globe that TB or even non-tuberculous mycobacteria, somebody told me that they saw non-tuberculous mycobacteria, which is opportunistic with COVID-19. What is happening here? Question marks. because I don't know what is happening, and I don't think anybody knows, as far as I know, what is happening. Do we have cytokines, these cytokines? Do we have these cytokines? Do we have a mix of these cytokines? And remember, and cytokines or immunological response needed for TB is different from the immunological response needed for COVID-19, and I might explain it further in the coming few slides. In all scenarios, I am putting this on every slides when I'm talking about cytokine storm, because in all scenarios, whether COVID-19 or cytokines or TB, the end point is multi-system organ failure and death. So, if you ask me why you have chosen TB, why didn't you say? Why you didn't talk about HIV and COVID-19? Why you didn't talk about methicillin staph aureus resistance, methicillin staph aureus resistance, and COVID-19? Why you didn't talk about malaria and TB? I would say I am talking about TB and COVID-19 for two reasons. The first reason, I already said it, because I love TB in different way, and the other because for the coming reasons I am going to say here, both share common features. Both target lungs and need isolations. Of course, when you have open case pulmonary TB, you have to isolate your patient, otherwise it will go on. The patient will go on and infect many others. And WHO estimate that every single pulmonary case, if it's not isolated, might infect another 25 individuals. In case of critical care cases, both need intensive care. Both trigger cytokine storm, as we explained in the previous slide. Both are treated by dexamethasone, and we will touch upon dexamethasone and biological anti-cytokines on cytokines storm triggering. So, this is a dilemma with available options. In fact, here I am bombarding you with more questions rather than answer or giving you information because it's really a dilemma for me and I don't know what is happening. Okay, now I know, I am not a physician, but I know for sure that dexamethasone is one of the component or given to the patient to reduce the cytokine storm in case of COVID-19. And without dexamethasone, cytokine storm is difficult to treat. And then people also use tocilizumab, which is anti-monoclonal antibody against interleukin-2 receptors to inhibit interleukin-6. And I showed you in the previous slide that interleukin-6 is one of the culprit cytokines to trigger cytokines and to trigger inflammation and severe inflammation. That's why people are using this medication to inhibit interleukin from reacting and triggering further immunological response. And again, there is another medication people are using, anakinra. Anakinra, it's again monoclonal antibodies, but binds in this scenario to interleukin-1 receptors to inhibit interleukin-1 level. These scenarios, dexamethasone, tocilizumab, and anakinra are all used to treat COVID-19 with cytokine storm, with severe kind of cytokine storm. Why they are used to inhibit and to control cytokine storm. But where did my dilemma come from? Okay, you are now physician, you prescribe dexamethasone or anti-interleukin-6 to manage severe form of COVID-19. What is happening? This treatment carries a recognizable risk for latent TB activation. And here, it's worth mentioning that 2.something billion people out of the total population, 7 billion something, are infected with latent TB. And you are making the floor ready to flare TB. You are giving the patient dexamethasone and anti-interleukin 6, and this is absolute the nice recipe for latent TB to flare. And you, in fact, in another word, you are treating cytokine storm because of the COVID-19 reaction, but also you are giving the recipe and the green light for the latent TB to go ahead. And I don't want to, bombard you again with another dilemma. If you suppose not all those number are infected with TB, little number, 100, 200,000, 300,000, 1 million out of the 2 billion people are infected with TB, and they are having latent TB. They are bombarded with these two compounds. What will happen to them? Of course, latent TB will flare. And if latent TB flare, what will happen? What the physician will do? Are they going to stop treating patients of COVID-19 with cytokine storm, stop dexamethasone and interleukin 6? And if they are stopping them, of course, cytokine storm will flare again. And if they continue giving them these ones, the TB will continue flaring and will continue multiplying. Of course, maybe you say we will bombard them with antibiotics to treat TB. But what will happen if those antibiotics are not working? This is my first dilemma. Again, that was in case of dormant TB. Now let us talk about active MDR, multi-drug resistant TB, and COVID-19. What to do if both diseases involved in triggering cytokine storms? And here I want to say one thing about cytokine storm in case of TB in comparison to cytokine storm in case of COVID-19. TB is an intracellular pathogen. It needs a reaction, cellular reaction from the immune system, unlike COVID-19, which needs a humoral response from the immune system. And now here you have two different arms of the immune system. One is cellular, one is humoral. And if you have a patient with two arms of this kind of reactions from the immune system, it's really fascinating, but at the same time, it's scary. What will happen? I don't know. This is my second dilemma. Response to MTB, of course, this is explained. And what will happen? Physicians, what will do? Will give it antibiotics, but we said it's already MDR. Will it give dexamethasone and interleukin, anti-interleukin 6 and anti-interleukin 1? I don't know. And this is my third dilemma. And does active TB infection make treatment difficult? Because of the reason I just explained. This is my fourth dilemma. And I leave it to physicians among us. I hope they are listening to us to answer, or at least cast their view on this kind of difficult scenarios and difficult dilemma. My conclusion, this is my last slide, I guess. Both COVID-19 and TB infect lungs, and therefore they may unite with each other to cause more damage to mankind. Cytokine storm kill us if it is not treated properly or not controlled properly. Dexamethasone and anti-inflammatory cytokines can lead to undesirable consequences, and I explained some of these consequences. Personalized medicine may be the best option at this stage, but not before understanding what is happening. Last but not least, I would like to thank you so much for your listening, and I'm ready to take questions if there is any. Hello?
Yes, Dr. Asiri, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Thank you very much, Dr. Al-Hajoj, for this is interesting talk. And it's, yes, I agree with it's very scary scenarios. There is a recent published work looking at the cytokine storms, and there is a genetic component of the patients. They have, I think, either several mutations make them more prone to cytokine storms. Is there any studies looking at TB? And at least patient TB, they have this kind of genetic profile that make them more susceptible, or their case is more worse than others?
Thank you so much. Nice question and very interesting. If you are relating genetic mutations as a predisposing factor for cytokine storm associated with COVID-19, as far as I know, I don't know whether there is, but the HLH type of cytokine storm, of course, it has been studied a long time, and lots of mutations are there. And in fact, this the main cause of HLH is a mutation cause. And then, of course, there are immunological response not related to the mutation, but the mutations are predisposing, and people studied it very well. I am not sure whether there are studies on TB when it comes to cytokine storms linked to the genetics and causing like this. But cytokine storm in general, especially when it comes to TB, it is, as far as you know, not linked to mutation cause. Just there are people talking about craziness of the immune system and overreaction of the immune system towards the TB, especially, and this is maybe the smartness of the bug we are dealing with. When the bug goes inside the macrophages, they kill the macrophage and preserve the shape of macrophage. And immune system, of course, knows that there is enemy here but cannot reach, and still send too much, let us say, soldiers, too much macrophages, too much neutrophils to the site of infection, but without reaching the enemy, which is inside the macrophages. And this is what causing cytokine storm, as far as I know, when it comes to TB. I hope I answered your question, Dr.
Yes,
Asir.
thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sahel.
So, Dr. Sahel, in the hospital, in our hospital here, are you aware if the treatment protocol for patient with TB that encounter COVID-19, is it different from those who don't have the TB? I don't know if you can comment.
I am not aware, but I can break you my secret that I am preparing a proposal to study COVID-19 plus TB, and in my exclusion criteria, not and in my data, in my data collection sheet, I am putting asking what kind of regimens are used to treat those patients. But now I don't know anything about it. Sorry.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
If there is no further question, then we thank Dr. Sahel Al-Hajoj for his presentation today. Thank you so much, and looking forward to see you next week in our upcoming seminar.
Thank you.